Good morning, my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ and here's your detailed weather forecast update nationwide for Tuesday, August the 12th, 2025. Heaps to talk about in today's forecast update, in particular rain up in far north Queensland, showers and storms still expected across southwestern and southeastern Australia. Let's jump straight into the details this morning up in far north Queensland. If you are brand new to the channel, please do consider subscribing, but you can see plenty of showers from that southeasterly trade flow that's moving in from the Coral Sea this morning, and these showers aren't just limited to the Cassowary coast or the Daintree Rainforest either, moving down as far south as Townsville and then into the Whitsundays overnight. As we talked about in yesterday's forecast update, when we start seeing these wind accumulations and these wind observations here out into the outer reefs of the Coral Sea, Flinders Reef out there, Creel Reef down here, 43 and 46 kilometres an hour respectively, and some stronger wind gusts as well approaching the coastline and into the Whitsundays, you know rainfall is imminent, especially up into the far north coast of Queensland, in particularly the Cassowary coast. Overnight, falls between 10 to 30 millimetres have been widespread, and it's their best rainfall that they've had up there in a couple of months, and the rainfall is continuing to pile on, as you can see from the showers moving through up into the far north of the Cassowary coast right now. You can see heaps of rainfall is expected to continue to move through into the coming couple of hours, and this rainfall isn't going anywhere until about Thursday as well. So we should dive into the forecast and talk about what's going on up here, and I'll get to that in just a sec. But you can see that some of these showers here are definitely packing a punch, 50 millimetres an hour plus in terms of brief downpours coming through. So definitely some of the heaviest rainfall that we've seen in a couple of months up in far north Queensland, and the rainfall will continue to pile on throughout the course of today. Cairns has been protected so far from the Yarrabah Peninsula. As we know, Cairns is normally protected from these southeasterly flows because of the Yarrabah Peninsula, and they haven't had too much in the way of rainfall for the Cairns area. A few drops have made it into Cairns, and a few sprinkles here and there have been reported, especially into the southern suburbs of Cairns, and we expect the rainfall to continue, especially into the early hours of this morning as some of the more robust showers begin to build. But for the most part, this rainfall is going to be exclusive to the Cassowary coast and into the Daintree Rainforest. Let's take a look at the convective forecast models, which have a much more accurate picture in terms of what rainfall we can expect and in terms of how heavy it's going to be. You can see this morning starting off light, but expected to get heavier around midday and into the early hours of this afternoon, reaching a maximum earlier this evening at around 6 or 7 o'clock tonight. Rainfall is really going to pile on around the Innisfail area and then for locations further north, and we're not writing off falls above 50 millimetres tonight, especially with looking at this convective forecast modelling here and suggesting how heavy this rainfall is going to get before the rainfall steadily eases off through the Cassowary coast and also the Daintree Rainforest later tonight and into the early hours of tomorrow morning. Rainfall will resurge again later on tomorrow morning and into tomorrow afternoon. We will see a brief rise in rainfall accumulations through Wednesday night into early Thursday morning, before after Thursday morning the rainfall does pretty much clear for good, or for at least a couple of days up in far north Queensland. You can see through Thursday and then into Friday, dry conditions are expected across much of far north Queensland, the Cape York Peninsula and the Queensland coastline in general. Let's talk about those rainfall accumulations right now. Now, why are we using the convective forecast models when they are obviously quite a bullish forecast solution? Well, it's because they can really crank out the detail that we need up in far north Queensland, because it's such an intricate network of mountains and valleys. That's why we can get some extreme rainfall accumulation up in far north Queensland, and the convective forecast models just do a perfect job at it. They're often on the higher end of the rainfall accumulation forecast, which, if you're familiar with far north Queensland, they always either get the higher end or they exceed the higher end of that rainfall accumulation forecast. 130 millimetres coming in tonight outside of Innisfail around Mirrawinny and Mount Bartle Free. We're expecting some pretty significant falls around 100 millimetres as well south of Fishery Falls, and falls between 20 to 80 millimetres expected as far north as Gordonvale and even into the Yarrabah Peninsula as well. Innisfail looking at about 80 millimetres, South Johnston looking at about 30 to 50 millimetres of rainfall, and then into the valleys outside of the Tully River and then outside of El Arish we're looking at falls between 30 to 80 millimetres as well. So some significant falls expected there. Falls around the Cardwell area, we're looking at falls between 10 to 20 millimetres, slightly higher accumulations into the mountainous areas outside of Cardwell, and falls up to 15 millimetres expected outside of Ingham. Rainfall isn't expected anywhere further south of Ingham and not expected for Palm Island or Townsville either. Rainfall between 20 to 30 millimetres is possible into the wettest spots around the Daintree Rainforest outside of Port Douglas. Slightly higher accumulations are a possibility, but we're expecting the Daintree Rainforest to remain relatively dry from this rainfall here. It is a Cassowary coast rainfall event, and that's where the rainfall is going to be sticking firm for. Rainfall accumulations for Atherton, Mareeba, Ravenshoe and some of the locations into the Atherton tablelands between 10 to 20 millimetres the further towards the east you get, but for Mareeba, Atherton and Ravenshoe, I'd be surprised if any one of those locations picked up more than 2 or 3 millimetres later tonight tonight. Rainfall is not expected to be heavy out there. It is this showery stuff, so the showers have got a tall order to get through the mountains adjacent to the coastline, which means we're not expecting rainfall to get further inland. And as you can see on the last 6 hours of the radar imagery up in far north Queensland, not one of these showers has made it far enough inland to give Atherton, Ravenshoe or Mareeba any kind of meaningful rainfall whatsoever. They have stopped about 30 kilometres away from the coastline. And that is what we expect to continue to happen throughout today, with these showers enhancing throughout the day, reaching a maximum later tonight. I think it goes without saying here, even though we've got 130 millimetres coming through in some locations over a 6 hour period later this afternoon and into this evening, flooding is still not expected up in far north Queensland. You need a lot more rainfall to flood the rivers, and especially considering that a lot of these rivers are now bone dry or very close to being bone dry, you need a lot of rainfall to really cause some problems up in far north Queensland. So we're not expecting flooding, we're not expecting flash flooding, and conditions are not expected to get hairy for even a minute up in far north Queensland. Just heavy downpours, heavy showers, a sign of things to come. Now, why am I looking at the cloud forecast? Well, it is because we have an expected meteor shower later tonight up in far north Queensland. We're going to see if we can see it at any point around far north Queensland. A lot of people are very interested in seeing it. And unfortunately, on the Atherton tablelands, cloud coverage is going to be between that 90 to 100%, between 7 to 8 octaves of cloud coverage. So it is going to be pretty much a washout in terms of cloud coverage in the sky. It'd be very lucky to see any kind of meteor activity in the sky up in far north Queensland. You'd have to get much further inland. I don't think this one is going to be worth it, or even further north. You might have a chance if you're around Cooktown or Hopevale, or even out towards Mount Carbine outside of the Daintree Rainforest, but at this point in time you're looking at 7 or 8 octaves of cloud coverage around the Atherton tablelands, and cloud coverage and rainfall will just make it impossible to see any kind of meteor activity along the Cassowary coast as well. So I'm sorry to dash people's hopes up in far north Queensland. A better chance in the Cape York Peninsula, but at this point in time not looking overly likely to see that meteor shower coming through. Looking forward up in far north Queensland, we do have a little bit more rainfall coming through as well. It's going to happen after the 20th of August, but you can see more showers building from a southeasterly trade flow later on into the month of August, in particularly between the 21st out to the 23rd. Well, in yesterday's forecast, that was the case, and you can see again after about the 24th or the 25th, there are some rumbles of activity into the Coral Sea that we may see another southeasterly trade flow begin to build after the 20th of August. But at this point in time, we're not looking at anything significant in the way of rainfall accumulations up around the Cassowary coast in that period there, and we're probably talking about 10 millimetres a day on 3 or 4 separate days, so really nothing to be concerned about at this point in time, but I thought that it is worth a bit of a heads up. Into southeastern Australia now, we're going to shake things up and talk about the winter weather outlook across southeastern Australia. We do have a nice cold front moving through the western half of Victoria this morning, and that's bringing some much needed rainfall for drought-stricken communities, and has brought some much needed rainfall for drought-stricken communities through South Australia as well. Widespread falls between 10 to 25 millimetres overnight through parts of South Australia, and plenty more accumulations above 5 millimetres through parts of South Australia. The western half of Victoria looking at a further 5 to 10 millimetres of rainfall on top of what we've already seen so far, with the heaviest falls actually being into the northwest of the state around Mildura and those areas as well. Rainfall should ease off by the time this video comes out, and should be beginning to build up around the Melbourne and the Geelong area by the time this video is out live. Across the western coast of Tasmania, we are expecting some healthy rainfall accumulations later tonight, maybe even some strong wind gusts as well. You can already start to see wind gusts into the Bass Strait beginning to pick up just a little bit now. This is the Spirit of Tasmania, 32 kilometres an hour out of the north. We're expecting wind gusts to begin to build later today. This isn't expected to be a severe weather system front coming through, but it will pack a bit of a punch in terms of rainfall. Falls between 10 to 40 millimetres are a possibility across the west coast of Tasmania later tonight, and this rainfall will turn to snowfall above about 1,300 metres through Victoria and into 1,400 metres for New South Wales, with a few light dustings expected later tonight and into early tomorrow morning and afternoon. Rainfall will then clear out across southeastern Australia as a high pressure ridge builds on Wednesday and into Thursday. This will keep temperatures cool, calm and collected across southeastern Australia before a stronger cold front comes up about Friday midday for Victoria and Tasmania, moving into the eastern half of Victoria through Friday night into Saturday morning, and heaps of snowfall expected above about 1,000 metres on mainland Australia through Saturday afternoon and into Sunday morning. Another stronger cold front coming through on Sunday. This one's going to ride right up into the Great Australian Bight and then into the Bass Strait, and we're expecting some heavy rainfall here and there at times through Saturday and Sunday. This one will pack a punch, and then this system dumping a whole bunch of snowfall across the higher elevations of Victoria and New South Wales into Monday before the low pressure system gets itself out into the Tasman Sea, and I'll talk about that in just a few minutes. minutes. But overall, looking like a pretty stormy and pretty turbulent weekend with 2, maybe even 3 separate weather systems coming through across southeastern Australia, one of which will bring some good rainfall and some good snowfall. The other one is going to bring some stronger winds and some heavier showers here and there. And then looking forward, just the general winter weather stuff for southeastern Australia, including Melbourne, Adelaide and Hobart. We're looking at some more winter storms coming through, especially into the last week of August. It looks like we might see another turbulent rise in winter's weather across southeastern Australia, and that's going to keep everything looking good for rainfall accumulations. I mean, just take a look at the rainfall accumulation forecast over the next 14 days. Melbourne expecting a further 5 millimetres today from the weather system coming through, but a good amount of rainfall coming through just overall in the next 14 days, up to 100 millimetres on the southern coast of Victoria. The bulk of that will actually come through on the weather system coming through on Sunday and Monday this weekend, and some good rainfall also expected for the west coast of Tasmania, looking at up to about 130 or 140 millimetres coming through, the majority of that coming through on Saturday, and then again into the last week of August rather, and some good rainfall also making it into towards the southeastern corner of South Australia. Falls between 25 to 50 millimetres expected towards the south of the Murray-Darling River release area, and then falls around 20 millimetres expected on top of what has already fallen around the Adelaide area as well. Rainfall will be one to watch across southeastern New South Wales, and I'll get to that in just a few moments. Just after the snowfall forecast across southeastern Australia, you can see 14-day snowfall accumulations looking really healthy across a wide swathe of southeastern Oz. Snowfall will be at its heaviest this weekend though, and if we zoom right in on Saturday, Sunday and Monday, especially for Saturday, Sunday and Monday, you can see some pretty healthy and some pretty widespread snowfall accumulations expected throughout New South Wales, Victoria and Tasmania, which means it is going to get very cold and that snow line is going to drop to quite a low elevation, potentially down to 300 metres in Tasmania, especially along the southwest corner of Tasmania, and potentially down to about 600 metres through Sunday night into Monday morning across parts of Victoria, and 700 metres for parts of New South Wales. It will get very low. This snow isn't expected to make it anywhere further north of about Bathurst though, so only more snowfall accumulations across the northern parts of New South Wales into the northern tablelands, unless you're on the top of the Barrington Tops, for example, is very unlikely at this point in time. I imagine this snowfall forecast will get refined as well. I think it is just a little bit too expansive at this point in time, but I definitely reckon we're looking at between 10 to 20 centimetres of snow coming through this weekend, and some good snow also a possibility across Tasmania, as we have already mentioned. 14-day snowfall accumulations as much as 40 centimetres across the higher elevations of New South Wales and Victoria, and up to 30 centimetres for the higher elevations of Tasmania. And just briefly, I want to talk about the Tasman Sea. We've had rumbles of activity on the forecast modelling for the month in towards mid-August. We're expecting something to develop after about the 16th of August out to about the 22nd or the 23rd of August, and it looks like we may see a low pressure system now develop close to the New South Wales coastline, very briefly at least, and this could pipe rainfall into the southeast corner of New South Wales through Monday out to about Wednesday or Thursday, between the 18th to the 20th or the 21st of August. So it'll be interesting to see if that does materialise at this point in time, but at this point in time I'd also be liking to take this forecast with a very heavy pinch of salt. You can see rainfall accumulations that could get heavy at times across southeastern Australia, coupled with some heavy snowfall accumulations are also a great possibility on the GFS forecast model. So I'm definitely erring on the side of this is likely to happen sometime around Sunday, Monday or Tuesday, the 17th, 18th or 19th of August respectively. And I think it will actually pan out very similarly to how the recent low pressure system offshore from Coffs Harbour that drove all of that rainfall and snowfall into the northern tablelands of New South Wales. I think it's going to pan out very similar to that. We will see a low pressure system very close to the coastline funneling in some pretty heavy rainfall for a brief period of time, and that will turn into heavy snowfall across a certain elevation or above a certain elevation. So we'll definitely be keeping a close eye on this forecast here. It definitely looks like it is going to get quite interesting across parts of southeastern New South Wales. Sydney and locations, especially further south of Sydney, could continue their record-breaking run of rainfall into the middle parts of August. And just briefly down into the southeastern corner of Western Australia, southwestern corner of Western Australia rather, dominated by high pressure right now, and that's keeping temperatures quite cool. It's been a cold start across interior parts of the Wheatbelt. 0 degrees at Salmon Gums this morning, 0 degrees at Norseman, -1 at Collie East. Temperatures are expected to remain cold overnight throughout tomorrow and into Thursday as well, but we're expecting another low pressure system to come through, which should save us from this cold weather, especially into the Perth metro area through Wednesday night and into early Thursday morning. Wednesday's going to be a warm one, a top of 23 expected into the Perth metro area through Wednesday afternoon before that cold front approaches late Wednesday night and into very early Thursday morning. Moving into the Perth metro area, and especially with some heavy rainfall immediately north of Perth, up around Jurien Bay. Bay and Geraldton. We could be seeing falls between 10 to 40 millimetres up there once again, and falls between 10 to 30 millimetres expected further south around Dwelling up and down towards Collie East, and some good falls also possible around Perth between 5 to 20 millimetres expected Wednesday night into early Thursday morning, before showers dominate the scene through Thursday morning and into early Thursday afternoon before they clear off by Thursday evening. High pressure dominating the scene again through Thursday night into Friday, Saturday and Sunday. That's going to keep things cool, calm and collected across the southwestern corner of WA, and then rainfall is going to return from another strong cold front coming through Monday, Tuesday the 18th and 19th of August respectively, and it looks like after about Monday the 18th of August we're going to see 4 or 5 days of much wetter than usual conditions across southwestern WA as we head in towards the later parts of winter. One last final winter's weather burst by the looks of things before temperatures and the rainfall start to back off and build. So we could be looking at some pretty significant frontal activity coming through after the 18th of August, and just looking at this right now, falls could be well above 50 millimetres of the week between the 18th out to the 22nd of August, and you can see here on rainfall accumulations there is definitely going to be some significant rainfall moving through. These cold fronts will pack a punch, at least 2 of them coming through and plenty of showers and storms behind it, not to mention the damaging wind threat as well. You can see peak wind gusts around the southwest Capes expected to be well in excess of 90 kilometres an hour, with much stronger wind gusts expected further south approaching 125 kilometres an hour. So definitely some stormy conditions expected across southwestern Western Australia, and I think next week is definitely going to be the week to watch between the 18th out to the 22nd of August. There's a good storm coming through on Wednesday night, Thursday morning, but unlikely to be severe one. It will have some strong winds here and there and some heavy rainfall pockets here and there, but it's definitely not going to be anywhere near as strong as some of the wind fronts that we have seen so far this year. And just briefly before I wrap this video up, temperatures are going to start to rise, especially through this afternoon across parts of the Pilbara region and into the Gascoyne region. Temperatures approaching 30 degrees are expected to be quite widespread through the Pilbara region, and in fact we might see mid-30s and even in towards the high 30s across parts of the Kimberley region, pushing up towards 36 or even 37 degrees today and tomorrow. Temperatures will then begin to rise across the Wheatbelt region. Tomorrow afternoon we're looking at temperatures approaching 27 or 28 degrees into the northeastern part of the Wheatbelt, and temperatures up to about 30 degrees expected through parts of the Murchison, Gascoyne and then into the Goldfields. Temperatures could approach 25 degrees down around Hopetown and Bremer Bay as well between Albany and Esperance, and temperatures will only continue to warm up through Thursday as well as that cold front pushes all of that warm air down. Temperatures pushing 30 degrees expected across a wide swathe of the Nullarbor Plain and into the south interior as well. So abnormally warm temperatures expected today, tomorrow and Thursday across a wide swathe of interior Western Australia. Just thought I'd give you the heads up there. Perth is also looking at some pretty warm temperatures over the next couple of days. But that is going to do it for today's forecast update. I do hope you found it enjoyable and informative, and preferably both. And if you have, then please do consider leaving a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Plenty more information still to come in far north Queensland. This is just the beginning of many months of rainfall that lies just a few months ahead of you. Another good wet season is expected, so make sure you are subscribed. CyclonesOZ will be your home of daily, if not twice daily, weather forecast updates for everything Australian tropics and weather. That's going to do it for me today. A special shout out to the channel sponsors. Their names are on screen right now, and again, I could not run the show without them, so of course their support is much appreciated. But that will do it, and I'll catch you all in the next storm.